Welcome to your Property Fix podcast. I'm Anthony McMullan.
And I'm Alison McMullan. Your Property Fix is your go-to spot for property insights, market updates and real stories from the front line.
We're going to keep you informed from buying and selling property to rental legislation, buy-to-let and everything in between. We have got you covered.
Let's get you your Property Fix.
Hello and welcome to your Property Fix, covering your A to Z of things for property investment from the start all the way to the finish, the whole property journey. We want to help you to be as successful as we possibly can do. As you know, my name's Anthony.
And I'm Alison.
And what is it we're going to be covering today as far as today's topics, hot topics as such?
So it is a hot topic, and we're going to be covering a bit about the Renters' Rights Bill. You're probably all sick of hearing about it, but it is something that is really, really important. All landlords need to know about it. And it's something that's coming. We can't avoid it, and we have got to prepare.
So what challenges are you thinking for investors and landlords in particular that they've got, and what are these? You know, the new proposals. What are these going to be challenges for landlords and risks as such?
There's lots coming. It's a massive bit of legislation. It's the biggest shake-up of the private rental sector that we've seen in decades. There's going to be landlord ombudsmen that landlords need to sign up to, databases that they need to register onto, lots of big changes to tenancies and tenancy agreements. I think for me, the biggest challenge and the biggest concern that most landlords I speak to have is surrounding having the ability to get back possession of their property.
It's been a long problem though, hasn't it? It's not just one that's starting, but it could get worse, and I understand.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest problem with the Renters' Rights Bill, is that it's a challenge at the moment. I think landlords come across getting back possession if they've got a tenant that isn't working out for them. It's not the easiest process now, and it is set to get a lot more tricky. So yes, it's the notice periods are extending. We're losing the Section 21.
Yes. So expand on that one a little bit more, so people are aware of what that means.
The Section 21 is the no fault eviction. So at the moment, it's seen as the easier route to get back possession. You have to give your tenant 2 months' notice, but you don't have to give a reason. As long as paperwork, you've done everything as you should.
That's the key thing with the Section 21. People say, "Oh, you not make sure you give the right notice and do things at the right time," but it all starts at the start. Yeah. It's what you do from the start. That's what's really, really important. If you've done all those checks at the start, you've done your paperwork all in the right timescales, everything's signed as it should be, and witness all these different things. Section 21's smooth. That's what it should be.
So it's still a long process, don't get me wrong. But providing everything's been done as it should be, you go to court, you get back possession. Lengthy process, but there's no argument, there's no comeback, there's no other side of the story that can be argued or disputed. But we're losing that. So that's whatever happens with the Renters' Rights Bill, that's going. It's kind of been agreed. It's been said for a number of years now. But there will still be grounds to get back possession of your property. You've got to have a reason. You've got to have a reason.
In the majority of cases, you have anyway.
Yeah. There's always a reason, isn't there? There's always a reason. But yeah, in terms of you'll be able, if you've got you want your family to move into your property, or you want to sell the property. There's lots of grounds, but there's grounds to cover things like that. But in terms of arrears, I think that's a big one. So at the moment, the current situation with the Section 8 notice is on mandatory terms. The tenant has to be 2 months in arrears, and then you serve them 2 weeks' notice before you go to court, and you can start your court proceedings. So that's set to change on the current proposal. It's 3 months in arrears, and then 4 weeks' notice. So you've got
it. For me, why let people dig themselves a deeper hole?
Yeah,
I can appreciate different people have different situations, but I think we've discussed this before. Is if people are they speak with you, whether they come up with a payment plan, they've got a new job, they've changed their jobs, situations have changed, or whatever it may well be, they've been off ill and they haven't been able to earn, but I'm back at work now, I'll be able to pay. And the key word of this is communication. I think you'll agree.
Yeah.
If a tenant communicates with you, fine, okay, we can work with you, we can try and work this, or they just say, listen, we can't afford to pay the rent now for whatever reason, we're going to have to move out, that's that, and then you come out with the plan of settling any arrears that are there. But the tenants that may well dig their head in the sand, that's what this situation in a lot of cases, all of a sudden the tenant you can't contact, you'll issue a notice, for example, for them to vacate or to resolve the arrears, and it won't be resolved. But this is now saying, well,
it's for me, it's not a good thing for tenants either, because it's just
no,
increasing their
and CCJs potentially at the end of it all
increasing
as
their
well.
debt. It's giving them more unmanageable debt. It's ruining their future.
Yes.
If they get a CCJ, poor credit history, they're going to struggle.
Anywhere to rent,
a new phone contract, a car on finance, anywhere else to rent. There's big repercussions for tenants on this as well. But for a landlord, it's 3 months of arrears, and then 4 weeks notice. That's 4 months before you even start court proceedings. By the time you've then waited for a court date, you've had the court hearing, they've had a little bit more time to vacate the property, and then if you need bailiffs, you're looking at 8-9 months on a good run. So that's 8-9 months potentially without rent.
It's bankrupting for some landlords, and in particular some landlords that may be accidental landlords that may just have 1 or 2 properties.
Yeah,
that money coming in is quite important to ensure that they can pay the mortgage. They haven't got that cushion fund there. So I'll tell you one thing that we have found, and obviously it's important to emphasise to you people, obviously we know these things between the two of us, but it's to emphasise to you what options you have to try and cushion that blow, or at least insure yourself for something like this. Now, one thing that we offer, no obligation to any landlord, our landlords, is something called rent guarantee and legal insurance. Now, this is not us trying to say you need to take it, you must take it, we need to sell it to you. That's not the case. But this is one thing you might want to investigate, in the fact that for a small extra fee each and every month, our landlords have rent guarantee insurance. Now, there is a 1 month excess, which is typically covered by the deposit or the bond, which is 5 weeks rent. But after the first month, you will then be paid the rent whilst that tenant is in situ, whilst they will then try and get that tenant out of the property, or they will try and resolve the arrears with the tenant. They'll write to the tenant. Now, if the tenant then doesn't, comply with what they're asking for, they will then issue them with a relevant notice, and they'll do this for you. Now, do remember there is a cost for issuing certain notices. Then, if you're needing to go to court, there's a cost to go to court.
And all this is covered.
Yes, all of this is covered with the actual policy of the insurance itself. And then, should it be then you need to go to court, they'll have a legal representative from the rent guarantee insurance to ensure that everything goes as it should do. But as I will say it from the start, as we emphasise already, if you've done things right from the start, they will insure the tenancy for you. If you've done the checks, you've done the right to rent, you've done the credit checks, the affordability, all those things, saying they are who they are, they earn what they earn, they've lived where they've lived, they will give the policy, no problems at all. So you don't need to go to court. You've got then the legal aid that will get you there to get that possession back. Now, you've got back possession of the property, and if you need bailiffs, they'll also pay for that. But you get back possession of that property and say, well, I've got a vacant property. What cover have you got there? What it also does is give you 75% of the actual rent for the first 3 months after the property has been vacated, because typically you may need to do some work in there depending upon how the tenants looked after the property. But it gives you that 75% of the rent until the property is relet, and then obviously then the claim is closed. Now, there may be differences and differentials between different providers, but the provider that we use, that is the policy there. So yes, there's an extra fee, but if it ensures that when you've got a tenant in there, you get your rent, it's more than worth it. And as we've found personally with the properties that we look after and our properties, as well as a number of other landlords where I've had unfortunate circumstances, changes of situation for tenants, and they haven't, communicated, this has been the perfect option for them to have. So going back to the Renters' Rights Bill. So as with any law, it's a very long-winded process. So where are we at? What, almost like hopscotch, where are we at? Which number are we at the 10 or the 8 as it is when you're in the playground hopscotch? What level are we at now? What stage are we at? What have we got left to do in timescales?
Yeah, so it's been going on for ages. We've cleared the House of Commons. So the bill has gone through the House of Commons. It's cleared that stage. We're in the House of Lords. It's had its first reading, and we're now at committee stage. So this is where any amendments that have been put forward are tabled, and it goes through a discussion process. And it's quite important to say, there's hundreds of amendments that have been tabled, and very, very few will kind of come to any fruition. So this is kind of what landlord groups like the National Residential Landlords Association, they're picking their battles. They've got to pick their battles. They've got to kind of try and get the wins.
It's taken this long to get to this point, and all these different things they've done already. It's taken this long to get here, which is a massive progress as it is already.
Yeah.
There's some tweaks here and there, as I think we'll both agree are right things that should be put into place. We disagree on some parts of it, I know, but it's coming, you know. So what sort of timescales are you thinking this is going to be? And is there things to fear?
I think at the moment it's the fear of the unknown, isn't it? We have no set kind of date when this is coming in, or at the moment the only information we have is that the bill is expected to pass through all the stages. So after the House of Lords, it goes to Royal Assent. It's expected summer. You know.
That's a very long period.
I don't know. I mean, we don't actually get a summer in the UK,
no,
really, do we?
So if we do, we get it in May. Or when we're at work, and lovely in the week, it comes to the weekend, it'll start raining. But there we go.
So summer. So I think July, August time is likelihood.
Be prepared. I think so. It's like that. Was that the Cubs? Be prepared. I can't remember what it was, but be proactive, not reactive, which I think is a main lesson we always teach for people. So, as you understand, there's been some studies done on what typical landlords are thinking at the moment and what their reaction is to this.
So I know you're going to expand a bit on this, Anthony, but a survey carried out by Paragon Banking Group on their landlord clients. It was a 500 person survey. 65% of those that they surveyed, big numbers, are looking to reduce the size of their portfolio, so sell some of their properties over the coming years as a direct result of the Renters' Rights Bill. So what are you finding, Anthony? You're on the front line in terms of estate agency. It's something that we do as a business. So what are you seeing? What are you experiencing?
Well, referring back to the big decision we made at the end of last year, as an organisation, obviously we were predominantly lettings. Obviously we help people through the whole property journey, sourcing, refurbs, all these different things. But estate agency we've been doing, but hadn't really thrown much money at it. So we decided in December, with what was coming with the Renters' Rights Bill, we preempted that this would be a period where landlords would be thinking, is this the point at which, because there's a lot of landlords that will have invested back, 2000, when property was brilliant and fantastic until the crash in 2007. But they'll have bought now, and they'll be getting to that age now where they think to themselves, well, it'd be nice to have that money to go on more holidays and enjoy the money and working hard.
So that's kind of the norm, isn't it? You're going to get landlords leaving the market.
It's almost like a process. And what we are seeing, for example, at the Property Investor Network meetings, the PIN meetings, which we host, there's a lot of younger people coming into the market. Now, for those people that are potentially looking to exit the market, I know there's one option that we offer to people is trying to sell their properties off market for them. And they're liking that option because it may well be there's not that imprint on Rightmove, which some landlords may not be wanting to have with their sale of their property if it doesn't sell. Obviously, we can feed to selling that property, but we're finding people are wanting to potentially get it. It's what's the phrase? Breaks the camel's back.
Straw that breaks.
That's a silly phrase. But
you don't like your phrases.
don't do phrases. I'll say it blooming wrong every time. But that's what it's getting to, and I'm finding a lot of landlords think, and for example, the HMO licensing. They'll have got a HMO license a number of years ago, but now all of a sudden the criteria of what they need to meet. So it's pushed them over the edge, and now I'm finding that more and more investors are now looking. And this is where we, excel in the fact of having the stuff we've done over the years to help investors to purchase properties. Now, if they're now looking to sell them, or we've got other people that are coming through. Now, those challenges they've got, yes, of course, the stamp duty challenges, all these different things that are coming through, which are hindering, but it's becoming the norm. What we used to have of the 0.5% interest rates, the stamp duty very low with that stamp duty holiday back in 2021 as well. That's not the norm now. Property investment is, as we always emphasize, is a good investment as long as you do your due diligence. And in addition to that, it meets the goals that you set yourself. So what we're finding is, though, that for new investors, they're looking for support and guidance and help because it's not an easy route.
No, property's not easy.
But for people that are in the business and doing it, in a lot of cases, people have got the equity in their house, they've got investment capital, but they just don't want to take that step forward. But what I will say is it's always a good investment. But what I'm finding is that if you can give that support and educate yourself, I think is one thing we always say, educate yourself as much as you can do and gain the support from people that know what they're doing, because you can't be an expert in everything. It's one of those phrases we always got taught, wasn't it, in the past?
So, from what obviously I've just covered about the arrears process, the challenges that are coming in terms of getting back possession, So it could be an option that if a landlord has got a tenant in situ, they've got a good tenant, it's all going great, but they're just looking to exit the market. How easy is it to sell with a tenant in situ? Is that a possibility?
This is the thing. People say, "Oh, I have to sell it empty." Oh gosh, that'll be a pain because I've got to pay the mortgage, and then what happens if it falls through?
And the notice periods now, that notice periods without rent and
all these challenges. No, you don't need to sell it empty. What I will say is that the things to bear in mind with this is if you do sell a property tenanted, make sure that tenancy is compliant. In addition to that, that the property is compliant. And it's one of the tips we'll be coming on to at the end. Do a check on your property, a full check on the tenancy as well as the property itself to make sure it's fully compliant. So as far as a buyer is concerned, it's quite simply transfer over the day of completion. But there's no problems with that as long as that tenancy is okay and everything's been done as it should have been in line with legislation. There's no problem. There may well be more people, depending upon the strategy of the person that's buying it. If they're looking to do enhancements, then yes, it does maybe hinder that side of things because timescales wise. And if they're doing a flip strategy, for example, they're looking to do the place up and sell it on, it doesn't meet that. But in a lot of cases, people are just wanting to buy investment properties. I've got investors that I work for that are looking for just lovely family lets. And if I say to them, you've got a tenancy from day one, they're like, oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so the money's coming in right from
day one, as well as the vendor is happy because they've got rent until the end of the tenancy. So as long as everything's done right, there's no reason why you can't sell with tenancy. Really, really emphasise that. And moving on, I know we always like to do these final tips, and I've kind of covered it a little bit already. But what I'll say to you is if you're looking to sell your property at any point, or even looking to buy a property, making sure that property is compliant, safety certification, as well as planning wherever applicable, is in addition to that it's got the tenancy correctly done, credit checks, the right to rent checks, the deposit certificate, all that sort of stuff is done, go for it. But do that check first. And a number of people that I know are buying properties in Coventry that's got Article 4, and whether they were used as a tenant, as a HMO, house of multiple occupation, when Article 4 got introduced. I don't know. And you're like, it should have been the due diligence done. So, what's your final tip?
It's making your property more saleable.
Yes, absolutely. I kind of
getting the best price.
Leading on to that a little bit as far as your tip, then the last little thing that you want to go on to, it's kind of linking with I've just read.
I think your knowledge in this and kind of your learnings, so important. There's lots of information out there now. We ourselves we're doing videos, we're doing podcasts, we do regular webinars as well. We've got lots of information on our social media, our YouTube channels. There's lots of information out there that you can look at. There's other sites as well. The National Residential Landlords Association is a good one. There's government guides as well. Go to a reliable resource, get your information, but read up on it. Make sure you're aware of it. Make sure you know what's to come. I think that's my biggest tip because I think knowledge is power. It's like one of my favourite little sayings. But yeah, it puts you in the position that you can move forward and being prepared. You can't be too prepared.
No, like the Cubs. Be prepared. So this is your property fix. This is what we are. This is what we're doing, and we're going to be continually doing this to make sure that you stay educated. That's our passion. We want every property investor to be as successful as they can be, whilst also maintaining compliance and looking after your tenants. We want your tenants to have happy, long-term tenancies in your properties, making voids minimal because they're the big pain that they are. So make sure you subscribe, you're following us, doing all those tick boxes and likes as well. It'd be much appreciated, and we'll look forward to seeing you on our next podcast.